bigger crowd in here, and I don't remember, well, some of you just weren't here the last time. So all that being said, the first question I got for you, who in this room is in business development? Raise your hand, because I don't remember off the top of my head. Thank you. The right answer in the back of the room. Folks, this was a trick question. I even primed the pump first thing this morning. Y'all just hadn't had your Chick-fil-A coffee yet. I said, we're all in business development. I don't care whether you got betting on your shirt, betting on your business card, betting on your truck. We are all business development. Obviously, I get it. Our estimators and Channing are BD in the most traditional sense. But I wanted to show you something. I used the phrase this morning, salesman-tendant. And obviously that doesn't just mean superintendents. But I like the phrase, so I'm going to call you all salesman-tendants for a moment. But look at this timeline here. If you follow the graph or the interaction, we'll call it customer interaction, that blue line, and the level of interaction with the customer, let's say the blue line is Channing. So Channing is trying to meet Mr. Publix or Mr. AMC or whatever, Cop Theater. And he's kind of trying to get a lunch or an appointment. Hey, can I meet you out at the movie theater convention and talk to you about betting? Too busy right now, too busy. He keeps calling. And then finally, we maybe get a chance to bid a project. And you have 5 days to bid a project, maybe 2 weeks. Okay, point taken. 2 weeks. And then, how long does a movie theater project take, by the way?
Ground up 8 months.
Okay. All right, kind of feeding my story here for a moment. You had 2 weeks to put together a bid, and Channing has been chasing this relationship. You exit stage left, no pun intended. Look who takes over the business development role. The rest of you. You spend 8 months captive with this customer, for better or for worse. But do we think of it like that? I was with a client, actually, this was in the Carolinas. They built schools, and I was with the PM and the superintendent on the job site. So as I was there at the job site, the superintendent really wasn't very talkative, you know, and obviously probably maybe didn't even trust me, and in fact I wouldn't trust me either. But you know, I was different. I wasn't, you know, one of the company guys there. But I'm talking to the PM, they're telling me what they're building and blah, blah, blah. And about the same time, a group of like SUVs kind of were pulling up on the job site. And I'm watching the superintendent, you know, he's kind of like looking through me. He's like watching these trucks pull up. And about the same time, he's kind of stepping back and looking at his phone, looking at his watch, and he hops in his truck and goes, hey guys, I got to run to Home Depot. I'll get at you later. So he leaves, and who pulls up but the school board? This is the customer, the engineers, the architects, and all the decision makers. And the PM was kind of a little embarrassed by it, but he kind of looks at me, I look at him, and I said, was it something I said? He goes, no. John's not really a customer kind of guy. And I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, yeah, he just doesn't really like the customer. And that to me was very telling. Because, once again, who should be the most customer-oriented of this? And the point of this is to not all of a sudden say, okay, we all of a sudden need to be out there like a used car salesman. By the way, I keep using the car salesman, you know, kind of definition here. Do you all like buying cars? Anybody here like going to buy a car? I mean, I like going because for me it's sport, especially since I teach these courses. So I can usually outgame them. But my point is, no one likes it. It's awkward, it's icky, you know, you don't feel good about it. And it's because you're being sold. My thing is this concept of being the best salesman tendents you all can be is by developing these relationships. There's a phrase I like to use. People like working with people they like. And it's so funny when you hear that because some of these salespeople that you have, maybe that come out to your job sites or come in the office, You don't call them salespeople. You go, oh, I went to play golf the other day with Steve from United Way Rental or something, or United Rentals, or this electrician. Oh, no, they're not a salesman. They're just good people. No, they're salesmen. Yet you feel different about it because they've gotten to know you, developed rapport, developed a relationship, all those things. And more importantly, hopefully they've also provided results. You know, the part of this equation that we need to remember, you know, first of all, what does it take to delight customers? And then more importantly, what does it take them to have them to want to use you again? Here's the caveat though, folks. People see that last line and they go, well, we're just a very value-driven company. Except the problem with this is you end up being pit against 3 or 4 of your biggest competitors. Now, I understand companies like Publix and AMC, Cobb Theater, Kroger, Sprouts, I mean, they also have shareholders that they have to, you know, adhere to. So they can't just give to Benning every single time. But here's the other thing, you know, are we doing enough to make sure we have these raving fans every single time? For instance, if at the end of the project we yank my superintendent off and we put John the rookie out there to just do the last little bit and we stumble across the finish line, and then we come back and go, hey, why do you keep bidding us out against brand X and brand Y? They're like, you're no different than any other contractor we've ever worked with. No, we're so much better than everybody else at Benning. We're so different. Not really, not from where I'm sitting as the purveyor of services, because you know what? You stumbled across the finish line. You stumbled when I needed you the most. You weren't there. Now the good news is you will jump through yourselves to start a job, but as we said in the last session, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And in fact, if you do a better job starting, you might also finish better. There's kind of that yin to the yang. The point is, we have to keep doing this, and it's a little bit, I won't sing like Tina Turner now because I wouldn't do her any justice, but what have you done for me lately? You know, your story at lunch about the printing company that said, oh yeah, we give customer service for the first time, but if you come back to us, there's no customer service. It just, what? You know, that doesn't even seem to make sense. But if Benning does this job on this particular project, guess what the next job? You're gonna have to do this, because that becomes the expectation. And is that fair? Guess what? I don't write the book. That's their expectation. And that becomes the norm. Now the good news is, if this is higher than your competition, you're okay. You're all right. But the competition is smart. They're going to start to go, we need to elevate our game to be just like Benning, and boom. Now all of a sudden this is the status quo. So every single time we have to try to find ways to enhance. And the point of this is, when you think about, you know, well, let me come back to this one because I wanted to, you know, when we talk about this concept of marketing, sales, and customer service, remember, this whole section is called customer-focused construction. I started us today saying that this is not about taking clients to play golf or lunch or free swag or anything like that. What we're talking about is that far right column. Marketing, creating leads and creating awareness about our brand, getting clients, you know, closing deals. That's chanting and estimating, marketing and estimating. Those are business decisions that we make. But look at the right hand. You know, keeping clients, building value of existing opportunities, expanding contact deeper into the organization. So if we know 5 people at Publix this year, we should know 10 next year. And that's all through your grassroots efforts to develop those strong relationships. Delivering service, achieving higher levels of value. And if you set the standard for 0 punch list on this project, guess what? You're going to have to do even better the next time. What's better than 0, Greg? Maybe it's a week early. Oh my gosh. The bar keeps getting elevated, and I don't make those rules, folks. That's not about me saying, yeah, I just think you need to do better. That's the old adage of the perception is that customer's reality. And I don't get to control that, you don't get to control that, you just have to strive for it. And that makes it very challenging. But we're also not talking about, oh, so I guess that just means I have to roll over on change orders, not bill them, not give them bad news. No, that's not what I'm saying. In fact, in some cases, just recently, I had a situation at my house. We just finished building a house in Pasco County, and it was amazing. My builder had to give me bad news a couple times. It wasn't horrible news, but it was the way they did it. To where at the end of the day, I felt okay with it. And it's kind of weird that you could say you feel okay with bad news, but it was one of those things. They could have A, not responded to me. They could have B, said, you know what, Schoppman, screw you. It's not our problem with that. A couple of them were all about trying to find solutions. And I'll give you a good for instance. I have it coming up in a little bit, but the word that comes up is recovery. What do customers want? And it's this concept of recovery. One of the things that I did, this was when I first started with FMI, I did 2 what we call customer image surveys. So I went out to my customers' customers, if that's not confusing, and I called their customers and said, hey, how does brand X construction do for you? I can tell you this story because it is not related to Brassfield and Gorey. What I mean by that is my client was not Brassfield and Gorey, but this is the output of that. So when you hear their name come up, you'll understand that I'm not just giving other client information. So the way it went was I was in Nashville and I spoke to 25 out of 30 end users. And I said, who's the best contractor in Nashville? Without fail, the number one answer on the board was like Family Feud. Number one answer on the board was Brassfield and Gorey. I didn't even have to say, hey, how does Brassfield do? They were just like, number one answer. Now, unfortunately, my client wasn't in the top 5 answers on the board. So then I did a few, I guess it was about 6 months later, I did the same thing in Atlanta for a contractor about 15 years ago. And I asked them, same question, who's the best contractor in Atlanta? Without fail, it was about 22 out of 27 companies said Brassfield and Gorey, number one company we work with. I was like, wow, that's interesting. 2 different geographies, so that's an interesting thing. How often do you see satellite offices? Have you ever worked in a satellite office before? I know in my previous life I worked, we were in Tampa, as I said, our home office was in St. Louis. And there was an office in Atlanta, and we were about as night and day different as you could possibly get. It was that different. But the fact that they had consistency between their 2 offices was fascinating. Number 2, when I started asking the customers and saying, hey, why do you like Brassfield and Gorey so much? Because I was sensing a trend, by the way, so I said, let me dig a little deeper here. What they said to me was, you know what, it's almost like Brassfield's people are not allowed to tell problems. Like, even if it's not their fault, like the weather, just like what had happened at my house. We were kind of going to a wet season, and my builder had to tell me, Greg, we may not hit the target date. We can't get the pool dug because, well, it's raining every single day. Okay. But you know what? What Brassfield does is they supposedly, at least according to their customers, they said to me, they're not allowed to go to the customer and say, hey, sorry, it's going to rain for 3 weeks. It's not our fault Mother Nature's not working with us here. Suck it up, Buttercup. That's not what they say. They go and say, hey, the weather's been an issue, so here's our resolution schedule. Here's how we're going to get us back on track. Which one would you like to do, A or B? We can work nights and weekends. We can work nights, we can work weekends. Oh. So you almost feel good about being delayed because there is a solution. But how often do we kind of put it back on a customer and go, hey man, it's not my problem it's raining out. It's not my problem the city of Smyrna won't give me a permit. What do you expect me to do? Versus saying, hey, we know the permit department's going to be challenging, and while I don't control the government, this is what we're going to do to get us back on track. Which one would you like us to attack first? Which one will be in your budget to make happen? once again, I'm not a great actor, but approaching it from that way, and that story about Brassfield and Gorey is always stuck in the back of my head. And for my clients, the ones that were in Atlanta and Nashville respectively, they kind of took that to heart. One of them took it well and transformed their company. The other one said, screw it, you know what, we're not Brassfield and Gorey. And I said, well, that says a lot, and we'll go from there. Going back a moment, I want you to answer this question. At your table, why do your customers choose Brassfield and Gorey? Why do your customers choose Benning? Why do they choose you?